I'm from Hyderabad originally. I live in Bangalore now. I did my undergrad at IIT Madras. I did a master's in the US in computer science in St. Louis at Washington University. I worked at Morgan Stanley on Wall Street. Also worked at a very young startup at Washington DC called Relentless Labs. And I learned a lot along the way. So I done a lot of open source programming, as I mentioned. So I worked on GNOME. I worked on Mono project. Anybody use the Mono stack for .NET for Linux? I wrote the compiler. If you say MCS minus minus and you'll see that. Along with Miguel and a couple of other guys. So the C# compiler, specifically, not the other languages. The C# compiler. Did that on, how many of you use curl? libcurl and curl. If you guys use HTTP pipelining and libcurl, I wrote that feature. So those are my contributions to open source. I've been a startup guy. I joined, as I mentioned, Hillcrest, and then I ended up starting. So I'll tell you my story now. Right? So my roots are in open source. In 1999, I started coding on GNOME. This is a picture that I was lucky to be a part of. On my right is Miguel de Casa, who's the founder of GNOME desktop environment. Right? So Miguel is from Mexico originally, and he was this hacker guy sitting in a mathematics department in University of Mexico, I think. And him and another guy called Matt Friedman, who was from MIT, these two were the founders of GNOME. They're the ones who said, what if we made a desktop environment which is really slick for Linux, which was a lot more like Windows, a lot friendlier, because at that time Linux was a very difficult operating system to work with. It was all Unix and all command line and all that. So I don't know if you recognize me, but that's me between Miguel and the other guy. So this is Miguel. This is the founder of GNOME. This is Matthias Hedrich. This is the founder of KDE, the other desktop environment. So all of us were at a table at Denmark. I happened to go to this conference because I was one of the only contributors to open source from India at that time, in 1999. So I was invited to that to teach my travel and everything. And so, what did I learn doing open source programming, right? I was very fascinated by open source because for me it was like a very tangible way of getting an idea that you had into people's hands, getting people to use it. I felt, there was, if Miguel and people like Matthias could get a desktop environment that's used in, honestly speaking, the number of desktops in the world today that run GNOME or KDE, it runs in the millions actually. Millions of desktops in the world today use GNOME and KDE. Ubuntu ships with GNOME as default, right? So that's huge. And so I learned I was fascinated by that. I wanted to learn how to do it. So I ended up contributing to open source, and my biggest takeaway, I said, as I did that, was one is you cut your teeth in programming really fast, right? I mean, if your code is pathetic, you'll get comments that will make you want to cry. Essentially. Maybe not all of them are so bad, but you learn a lot. You learn very quickly, and you essentially learn how to translate an idea into a product. And I did that, and I really learned how to do that when I was programming with open source. My open source contribution started winding down when I got to graduate school. I mean, I continued doing some on Mono, but what I did at graduate school was really just a deep dive into computer science. Because my undergrad degree is actually in chemical engineering. I'm not a computer science undergrad. Everything I've learned, I've taught myself, right from GW Basic in 5th grade all the way to C and C++ and all of this stuff. But I really wanted to dive deep into it, dive deep into computer science, really understand all these different aspects, systems and theoretical aspects, databases, user interfaces, all of that. So I spent 2 years doing that. I got a master's degree at the end of it. And I really strove hard to become the best at what I did. It was really important for me to be really, really good at coding, being able to design systems, just knowing computer science inside out. Not that I managed to do that in 2 years, but I tried to do that. I really wanted to get deep into it. So that's a picture from St. Louis. I don't know if anybody recognizes it. That's where I went to master's. So that's the St. Louis Arch. It's a very famous monument in the US. In 2004, I joined Morgan Stanley. That's where I was. I worked on Wall Street, basically. And Morgan Stanley was a very important turning point, actually, in my career. So What did I want out of graduate school? I wanted to learn how to program. I wanted to learn how to, I wanted to actually build systems, and I wanted to, actually get an opportunity to do that, because I wanted real world systems to be written by me and designed by me. So I got to Morgan Stanley, and of course I learned better programming. I learned a lot of things that you have to learn when you're doing things at scale. Right? Morgan Stanley is a very big company. It's got offices all over the world: Hong Kong, Tokyo, Singapore, New York, Bombay. And so I learned a lot of good things at Morgan Stanley, but I was really not sure about my impact. Right? I was like, what am I really doing here? Is it getting me to where I want to be? And in those 1.5 years, actually, 2004 January to 2005 August, in those essentially 18 months, I was very clear that I was going to start a product company. I was going to start a product company, and I was going to basically find my way of getting there. But because I was clear about my goal, I knew that spending any more time at Morgan Stanley would have made no sense. Right? What was I learning at Morgan Stanley? I didn't know anything about products. I didn't know how to build them, how to prioritize, how to do anything. So Morgan Stanley actually told me what I did not want to do, which is very important to me. I didn't want to sit in a company where I was building a finance application, which was, technology was not the core of the company. It was not the core of what Morgan Stanley did. And that really bothered me. I wanted to be the core of whatever it is, whichever place that I worked. So if you're a technologist or a computer science programmer, and you have to be the core, that company has to be a technology company. It can't be a company that sells, stocks, essentially equities and fixed income and all of that, or a company that, sells carpets or something, right? Technology is not the core of what they do. So I left Morgan Stanley as soon as I was clear, because I said, look, this is not helping me. I need to get towards being able to start a product company. So how can I do that? So I knew what not to do, so I ended up moving to a startup, because I knew I wanted to start up. In 2005, I said, if I want to start up in a couple of years, right, maybe 4 years, 3 to 4 years, what is it that I need to do now so that I can get closer to that goal? Now, in 2004, I was fresh out of graduate school. I'd never worked at a company other than Morgan Stanley. I knew nothing about people, about building teams. I knew nothing about designing large-scale systems. I was bothered by the fact that I didn't really know design, because on Wall Street companies, you typically hack up a lot of stuff, and you can just get something done. There are some pockets of excellence, no doubt about it. Goldman and Morgan tend to do really cool work. But for the most part, you're hacking up something. Some trader needs something to go to, goes to a trade, the exchange comes back. Not path-breaking stuff, really, and I didn't learn a heck of a lot that way. So I said, where can I learn how to really start a startup? So I said, maybe I should just be a very early employee, right, at another startup. So that's how I ended up finding Hillcrest Labs, and I joined Hillcrest Labs in the fall of 2005. And so that's where I really learned just a crazy amount of stuff, right? I learned the ropes of pretty much everything. I've done marketing there, I've been to trade shows, I've been to customers, big customer presentations, I've represented the engineering team there. I built an entire team at Mindtree, which was an offshore team for Hillcrest when I was there. So I basically used to travel often, built up a team of 15 people over there, over here in Bangalore. And so I learned the ropes of product. How do you build a product? How do you figure out what is an MVP, and how do you get beyond that? How important is user experience? Actually, I really learned user experience at Hillcrest. And then I learned project management. Things are going wrong. You're not able to make your deadlines. How do you still ship? How do you get stuff up? So all this stuff is what I learned at Hillcrest, really. And that helped me a lot. But the most important lesson I learned at Hillcrest is you've got to seize the initiative, right? Nobody's going to give you things on a platter. There were a lot of smart people at Hillcrest. But what helped me was because I was so excited about doing my own startup someday. I wanted to learn stuff. I would talk to the CEO. I'd say, hey, how do you raise this fund? What is the deal you struck with Cisco? What is the deal you struck with Samsung? We worked with all these consumer electronics companies back then. I did a lot of embedded systems work there. And so I learned a lot at Hillcrest. And then a couple of years later, I decided, hey, now it's time for me to do my own thing. I think I'm ready. And that's a decision that I think, is usually up to the individual. Right? Nobody can tell you when you need to do it. But yeah, this is a picture. I kind of like this picture. Actually, these are my colleagues at Hillcrest. They were a fun bunch. I really enjoyed working with them. Davor and Kit. And we worked hard. We built some really cool stuff. There's another thing I learned at Hillcrest. You can build the funkiest stuff on the planet, and I am not exaggerating when I say Hillcrest built user interfaces for television and the living room, and we were, I'm telling you, 3 years ahead of anything else on the market. Samsung and all these companies that couldn't even dream of stuff that we were doing. But that's not enough. And actually, I would consider Hillcrest not exactly a success, because I think Hillcrest made a couple of, fairly crucial mistakes. It's important to sell. You've got to get out there. You've got to have adoption. If nobody's using your stuff. You keep drinking your Kool-Aid. Sooner or later, it's not going to go anywhere. And that's what happened to Hillcrest. We were so much in love with what we had built, and the model that we were pursuing of trying to sell to the big companies, that didn't really work at all. And so there I learned that you can have the best technology in the world. You can have a brilliant team, right? And I can tell you that the people I worked with there were just outstanding. But that's not good enough. It's not good enough. You've got to do more than that. And so I came from Hillcrest with a couple of lessons, right? Saying, this is what I probably don't want to repeat when I start my own company. So I forgot to mention the year, I guess. But yeah, I did, sorry. Yeah. So MobStac's early years. That's Sharat, my friend, buddy for over 20 years. I've known him since high school, actually, 6th grade. So late 2008 is when we started planning MobStac. We did a lot of brainstorming. I was in DC. Sharat by that time, he was in New York for many years, but he had moved to Bangalore already by the end of 2008. So on Skype, we basically did a lot of brainstorming, a lot of just back and forth, thinking about things, thinking about business plans. Now, we were thinking about, so I don't know how many of you know what we do, but we're in the mobile internet space. All right, so we were thinking about mobile internet in the end of 2008, early 2009. We were saying, where will the world go? What will happen to the web? How will it change when mobile devices are the primary internet access device? So we did a lot of brainstorming. We got a fairly good idea of. It seemed like the most difficult problem at that time was I had a smartphone way back at the end of 2006. And most websites were like just pathetic. I just couldn't load any of them on my phone. And so that was the seed of our idea, saying, can we do this better? Can we make it easier to get people onto the mobile web? Anyway, there were a number of iterations we went through. I'll get to that in a bit. So in 2008, we were planning to start up, and me in DC, Sharat in Bangalore. Mid 2009 is when I moved to Bangalore. So June 10th is when we started MobStac. We started operations. We went to the office for the first time. And we had a single bedroom office. It's just 2 employees basically, or 1 employee started. The other bedroom was an office. And interestingly enough, our company was called Mobcast then. So when we first started, we were Mobcast. And then we just thought mobile and broadcast, Mobcast. But then what happened is we didn't get the domain. We didn't get mobcast.com. And then there were too many Mobcasts on Google. Right? If you search Mobcast, we'd get a Mobcast.jp, we'd get a Mobcast in the US, we'd get all these results, and we thought, wait a minute. And then, here's the worst thing, right? Our domain ended up becoming gomobcast.com. And then everybody kept saying, hey, you're from GoMobcast, you're from GoMobcast. I thought, this is a disaster. We don't want to do this, let's change the name. And so actually, 2010, in the beginning of 2010, interestingly enough, at Ashish's first Unplugged, you guys remember the first Unplugged? So, Plugged In has had a fairly major role. I'm rambling a bit here, okay, but I hope that it's not too bad. Let me just recollect the story. So, when we first came in 2009, and even before we came, one thing, because we knew we were going to start in India, right? We just read everything that we could about the Indian ecosystem, startup ecosystem, while we were still there, right? I probably knew things as late as 2 hours ago something written by Plugged In. And that's how plugged in I was. And Sharat also was. So we really kept in touch. We wanted to know what was going on in the Indian ecosystem. Then we learned about the Power of Ideas contest, Economic Times handout. We were one of the 10 finalists. And so we did all these things. And as Plugged In helped us, even the Unplugged series of events, which started off in 2010, they helped us a lot. The very first one in particular, we went to Unplugged. I remember. We were so cut off from the Bangalore ecosystem in the sense that we had not met that many people. We didn't know, who else is in Bangalore? Who are the successful entrepreneurs? What have they done? What are the success stories that we can all talk about? Because there was just no knowledge. People had only heard about 1 or 2 companies. Every time we spoke about a product company, people would say Tally. I've heard about Tally for like 10 years now. Come on, there's got to be other stuff going on. And I think Unplugged did a phenomenal job for Sharat and me, because we sat all day at Unplugged and we were just, coming across another, listening to all these speakers, one after the other, and they're all just doing such fantastic stuff. And that Unplugged was when Sachin on Flipkart and Red Bus, Funny, and all these people, Mukund, Mukund, and then Sri Krishna, and all these people who've built companies, who've grown teams, who've sold companies, and all these people right here in our backyard, right? That's when we realized, in 2010, when Unplugged happened, we were like, hey, wait a minute, we're really not connecting enough with people around us. That was a very important event for us, because we really made an effort to meet as many people as we could. And ended up making one person even our advisor, because that was very important. We had somebody to bounce ideas off, which, by the way, was a very good thing in retrospect. So, I think I've got all over the place. But yeah, that is our single bedroom office that we first started off in. And we had essentially 2 people. Just for reference, today we are 11. We have a proper office in Indiranagar, and we have a US corporation as well, because we're expanding to the US and getting some business there. So it's been about 2 years, and so far I would say that it's going fairly well, I suppose. So that was how we started, and I want to tell you 1 or 2 more stories, right? So just so that you know how it was. In 2009, when we told people about mobile site, first of all, they would say, WAP site, you mean WAP? I said, no, we're not talking about WAP, we're talking about mobile web, like HTTP and HTML over. So we learned it the hard way. After all, we just stopped correcting people. We're like, okay, forget it, man. Yes, WAP site. Yes, we do WAP site. but really, we were not doing WAP sites. But when we went to, what we did is, we first built a prototype. We had a basic demo going. We went to a bunch of customers and validated, saying, hey, would you actually buy this from us? We learned the hard way that people basically say, yeah, we'll buy it from you. It's easy to say yes. But still, we at least got some feedback. Like, we asked them a bunch of questions, and that helped us at least realize, okay, maybe this is what we basically need to demo, and then they'll have a better idea of what we can do. So we built a prototype, early version, and then we went and showed it to guys like the Hindustan Times, Mint, LiveMint.com, Times of India. We went all over, right, India. And back in 2009 when we started, we actually started with the premise that we'll just service the Indian market. Huge mobile market, it's billions of dollars. And if you read all these reports, you really think, wow, man, India is huge, right? I should just focus on the Indian market and we'll become multi-millionaires or whatever. Our company will become billion-dollar. So in the beginning, all we would do is go to these enterprises and try to sell them our product. And then it would just go on and on and on. They never would commit to anything, and they would say, but can you do apps? Or can you do this? Can you change the color here? All kinds of, they just went us, took us in circles. We also learned, I guess, that's basically my next slide, right? We chased all these guys, and nothing happened, right? Zilch. Absolutely nada. Nothing happened. Nobody committed, nobody wrote us signed a contract, nobody said they would pay. And the best part, we were not even asking them for any money. We were not even saying, pay us these many lakhs a month, right? We were just trying to understand, okay, will you pay for it or will you do an ad rev share? Trying to get a sense. But in 2009, the second half of 2009, even early 2010, it was too early for the Indian market. Nobody was thinking about mobile web. Android phones had not hit the market. So people had not even thought that far. And we were trying to go, and say, this is the future, man. We're missing out. All content consumption is going to happen on mobile. Those guys probably thought that we were just drinking our Kool-Aid. So it got nowhere, right? And then we said, okay, what do we do, right? So I think Swaroop asked me this a little earlier, right? And I this is our rule of thumb. The point at which you decide to pivot is pretty simple. You don't have adoption, you pivot. Simple. Adoption is pretty clear to see. Are people coming? Are they using it? Are they happy with their product at a very basic level? And is your curve going like this? It may not be hockey stick, which everyone likes to see. It's not easy to get a hockey stick. You have to do a lot. So, of course, entrepreneurs will say, you should persevere, I think we persevered in the sense that we believed in our core idea of mobile web, and that mobile will be first, and that content consumption to mobile devices will matter. We knew that. But what we realized is that in its current form, our product was not going anywhere. Just in a, in some on some server somewhere, Sharath and me flying to different parts of the country, trying to meet with people, show them what we've got. We said this is just not working. What we need is adoption. It doesn't matter if we have zero revenue, but we need adoption. We need to know whether this product has a need. Are we solving a real market need? And so that is why, or rather that is how we ended up launching our product as a web product in July 2010. So from Jan to June, we went through a lot of hard work. We were like, what the hell is going on? Nobody seems to care. Maybe we're doing the wrong thing. Maybe the future is apps. Like everybody would say, can you build us an app? Can you build us an app? And we said, no. Yeah, apps are great, but it doesn't make sense in Indian context. There's Nokia, there's this, there's that. Don't iOS anyway is not a popular, iPhone is not that widespread usage. So why do you want to do an app? And a lot of people said, forget about all this that you're doing, right? I'll pay you these many lakhs. Just build an app for us. So there were a lot of service opportunities we had, services. In the sense, get paid 10 lakhs or 5 lakhs, build an app, ship it to them, done. We turned them all down. Every single one of them. We never said yes to an opportunity where we could just do something with our skills, somehow make an app, and collect some amount of money in a check. Because it was very important for us to stick to our core vision. We were going to build a product, and we wanted that product to succeed. Not our skills, not our skills applied to a service or app-making company, essentially. So we turned down those opportunities. We really did a lot of experimenting. Right? We tried out mobile ad server. We built a mobile ad server between February and June of 2010. We actually built an ad server that can handle different mobile devices and that had all kinds of fancy targeting in it. And of course, all way ahead of what people in the market are talking about. But we went and talked to a lot of these ad agencies. We said, would you use an ad server? You don't need an ad server to track impressions and this and that. The advertising industry was what we were really looking at that point, mobile advertising. So we did a bunch of things, but what we ended up doing really was, July, we did a private beta. Ashish London was one of our first private beta users. But what we did is essentially we said, okay, look, let's make it self-serve, let's make it online, put it up there, and see what happens, right? See what happens. And basically that's what happened. We just saw rapid adoption. We saw so many different countries, people from all over the world using it, installing a plugin. All we did then was just a very basic minimum viable product. All we had. We only did WordPress, integration-wise. We had a very basic product in terms of what the mobile site was capable of doing. But it did one or two, three things really well. And so because we did those 2 or 3 things really well, we saw this adoption. We got a lot of good feedback. And then we said, okay, this is good. From here we iterate. We listen to customers. We listen to what we're hearing feedback-wise and everything. Just keep moving, keep moving. Don't stay still. The problem with what was happening before we launched on the web is we were completely standing still. We were not moving at all. The product was not evolving. Nobody was giving us any real feedback about how it was going to be used in production. So a lot of things had to be, we had to trash them because that would not scale. For when you launch it to the world and you have 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 publishers, 4,000 publishers all over the world using it. And these 5,000 different mobile devices hitting your servers, then how do you do all this? So that was a key moment for us. The traction that we got. Now I'm not saying we just hit the ball out of the park or nothing like that, right? No such potential. But whatever it is, we went from 0 to 100, 200, 700, 1,000, 1,500, just rapidly. And all that gave us feedback, all that helped us rapidly iterate. We were able to really improve our product, right? Leaps and bounds. We rewrote a number of subsystems, the way we handled feeds, the way we did a lot of things, Django, Python, all the web server stuff. And we learned about real customer needs and opportunities, which is the best part. We understood how these people who were using the product wanted to monetize, they wanted to plug in advertising networks. All this only happened because we put it out there. If we hadn't put it out there, none of this would have happened, right? And then we just kept working on the technology underneath the hood, relentlessly. Kept improving it. Make sure that, and we were obsessed, right, with our product, in the sense that we have this claim on our website. We say we are 4 times faster than any other mobile site out there. The reason we we say that make that claim and why we're obsessed with it also when we're building our product is speed is very, very, very key on a mobile device. People will just drop off your site if your site takes 20% longer than it should to load. But then, how do you also have a good user experience and yet be fast, right? So we were trying to solve all these problems, and we kept pushing the limits of what we could do, the stack that we picked, how we optimize our databases. We just did a lot of improvement underneath it. And it's not like we got swamped, right? It's not that we got covered by TechCrunch and all our servers went down. It was really a steady pace. People signed up, people started using us, and we started learning from them, which was the best part of actually launching. This is a picture from much more recent times. People in the office. A number of things that we did more recently is we did a number of things, right? One thing is we have continued to run experiments, right? We don't think that we know everything, that's for sure. And we want to make sure that we keep making more mistakes. When I mean mistakes is not be so afraid of trying something out. That's it. So what we ended up doing is we said, so the iPad came out, right? And now a lot of people started asking us about, oh, iPad, can you do this? Can you do that? And we said, wait a minute. What is this iPad thing? Let's go back and look at it. And so what we ended up doing is essentially an experiment, right? We said, how can we reimagine the user interface for content sites on tablets? Because the PC site is pretty boring, right? On a form factor like this, which you're interacting with with your fingers, there's no mouse, there's no keyboard. Why should the PC site be the right experience? It's not. It's actually completely suboptimal. So we said, can we really innovate? Can we do something vastly different from what exists today? And that's our booth at TechCrunch Disrupt. That's why we launched our product.